Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Now this is a bit unusual. I'm going to show you all how to make my famous banana cake. And it is a secret recipe really. I've kept this to myself for quite some time, but you know, I just figured that with things the way they are at the moment, there's absolutely no reason to keep things to yourself anymore, because you just don't know what's going to be around the corner. So this is a bit of an unusual banana cake. It's not a bread, it is actually a banana cake, and it tastes absolutely amazing. So in a saucepan on a very low heat, I've put it on high just to get it going, but I'm going to knock it right down to a low heat because I don't want this to cook, I want it to melt. So I've put it on a very low heat. I'm going to put in 125 grams of butter. And I'm just going to let that melt. Just a sec. I need to get my nice cup of tea, which is almost ended. While that's melting, I put in as well 160 grams of sugar. You don't have to use caster sugar, although I do sometimes, if I happen to have any. And I also put in 1 teaspoon of just any vanilla extract. Give it a shake. I don't mind if I go over the top, so if I get a little bit spilly, it doesn't bother me. Just pop it in. So while that melts, I'm just going to mash 2 bananas. Now, the more ripe the bananas, the better. So if they're looking like this, or even a little bit worse for wear than these, that's perfect. So I'm just going to get my spoon and encourage this to melt a little bit. It does take a little while, but I don't like doing it on a high heat. So I want something to mash my bananas in. Something big enough will do. So just roughly mashed with a fork is good enough. As you can see, I didn't prepare everything ahead of time. So I'm going to, while this is melting and everything's doing, I'm going to preheat my oven to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry, I don't know what that is in gas or, sorry, Celsius, isn't it? Celsius, do apologise. 160 degrees Celsius. Don't know what that is in the old system of Fahrenheit. I know that you probably still use that in the US. So I will try my best to look that up for you and put a little card up or in the description box what that is for your equivalent. Now, as you can see, this banana's gone quite brown. That's perfect. They caramelise a little bit. They're not off and they're fine. So I'm just going to discard those for a second while I mash. I'm just going to mash up my bananas with just a fork, roughly. You don't have to be precise with this, which is brilliant. It's not that kind of recipe where you really need everything to be just right. So just 2 bananas. If they're small, use 3. You can't really go wrong by putting in a bit more banana. Sometimes they're harder to mash than you think. Like this one is proving to be difficult. I'm going to get rid of that bit of banana. That's not mashing very well. So therefore, just going to go and get another one. And I do have a small one, so I'm going to use that. The rest of it was fine, it was mashing. I've never had a bit of a banana that didn't want to mash before. Right, just popping that in and mashing that up. So just roughly, doesn't make a lot of difference. So you'll also need 1 egg. Well, it says 1 medium, but you know, just 1 egg. 1 egg will do. I've used small ones, I've used big ones, just use an egg. So that's kind of roughly mashed and looking sloppy. That's what it looks like, just mashed up. Just put that to one side and keep an eye on how this is melting. Now, some people you know, when I've told her to do this and I've kind of checked on them, they've let this come to a bit of a boil. And it doesn't ruin it as long as you don't burn it. But you can just let it melt. I'm just chopping up this butter, the big chunks, just to kind of get it to melt a little bit quicker. But there comes a time when it looks like a pale yellow cream. We're a little way from that yet, so I'm just going to leave that to melt a bit more while I throw away these banana skins and my bit of banana that didn't want to work. So we also need about 10 cherries. These ordinary glacé cherries. I've only got, how many have I got left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's going to be one little bit that doesn't have any unless I chop one in half. Just going to pause the video a second because my shoelace is undone and I don't really want an accident. Okay, so for this recipe, while we're waiting for that to melt a bit more, you'll need 190 grams of self-raising flour. So that's the flour with the raisin agent in it already, and 190 grams. You'll need 160 grams of sugar. You can use caster sugar or ordinary sugar. I've used brown, like light brown at one point, but I'd rather not. It does work, obviously. 125 grams of butter, and normally I just cut a pack in half and that's perfect. So I decided that, as in the US you have odd weights like sticks and things like that, so I decided to cut it in half and then weigh it. So it was 125 grams of butter. You can use any margarine if you want to. Any's best for baking, cooking stuff, just use it. So you also need your cherries, 2 ripe bananas, a spoonful of your vanilla extract and 70 mils of milk. Now I use semi-skimmed milk, which is fine, but you can use any milk. So now it's starting to kind of look a little, it's not completely amalgamated yet, because when I do this, there's still sugar. So I've got to leave that a little bit longer, but it's coming along. I could turn it up, but it just would boil. So I'm just getting the milk now. My little measuring jug doesn't have a very good, it's not dirty, that's just a piece of banana that has decided to attach itself to the outside. It doesn't really have the right markings, but I can just judge it in this, it's fine. It's just over that line is fine. So it's a little bit hit and miss, but you don't have to be dead on accurate. Really, you can afford to be just a little bit over or under. It doesn't make a great deal of difference. So that's all your ingredients really. One beaten egg, a little drop of milk, around 70 mils, and you just roughly beat up the egg in a cup. You know, it doesn't have to be a bit of an advertising for Big Jam Studios there. That's where Mike, my son, does his recordings. Very good. So if you're looking for a recording studio in the UK, check them out. They're brilliant. Little plug there. Not being paid for advertising. Just thought I'd let you know. So there we are. This is what it's looking like now. You can still see that the sugar's not quite incorporated. So I'm going to whack that temperature up to about 3, just so that I can get it to blend without boiling. Because if it boils, it's not the end of the world. You just take it off the heat and let it cool down a little bit. But as long as you get your sugar, which you can hear the grit and feel the grit when you're doing this, you need it to melt. So I'm going to pause the video because it's a bit boring for you watching me stir, but I'll come back to you when it's right. Okay, so now it's starting to blend. You can see that it's a lot different. When I do this, it's no longer just sugar that's appearing up there. You can hear it's just a tad more gritty, but it's not. It's still blending nicely. So that's almost at the right consistency. If it does bubble, as I say, just take it off and let it cool down a little bit before you carry on. But that's as much of that as we need. Now, I usually do mine in a loaf tin, which I don't have out. So I'm just going to pause the video while that carries on that little bit more. You see it's starting to bubble. It's just starting to do that. So I'm going to turn the heat off. I'm going to pause the video while I prepare my okay, so I've prepared my loaf tin. It's just a small loaf tin and I've greased it and floured it. That's just all that's happened with there. So I just make sure it's all floured even into the corner. Right, so that's that done. So now we've got our mixture and it just looks like that. So we're going to pop in our our mashed butter. Not melted, mashed. So we just pop it all in and give it a stir. So we stir that in. And then the next thing we do is pop in our egg. So just get all that in there. Sorry about the noise. And we give it a stir. With the handle, not the actual pan. Might still be a little warm. So we just stir that in. Looks disgusting and lumpy. So then we pop in the milk. And give that a stir in as well. Looking good. Not. So then, lastly, for now anyway, we just mix in the flour. And I'll just use this tub to do it. And I'll do it a little bit on the gradual side, but it doesn't actually matter because it goes a bit on the lumpy looking side anyway. Stick a bit more in, but I do it so it doesn't all come fluffing out as it can. So you kind of just make your batter now by mixing in your flour. Let's get the rest in. Move that out of the way and stir it all in. So you're just roughly stirring basically. It's nothing major, just making sure I was recording because I wouldn't be able to go back and get it right. So just make the batter by giving it a good stir in. There's no worry about whether you overbeat it or anything like that. That's just mixing it in as best you can. So that's good. There's no more flour anywhere, none in the corners. Just make sure you get it all. So now I'm just going to pause the video while I move all this stuff out the way and get my baking. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is transfer this, just plop it in. And sometimes, for some reason, maybe the amount of bananas, I don't know, there is just a little bit too much mixture. And when that happens, I make a couple of little cupcakes. So as you can see, there's a bit in there, probably enough to make a cupcake. So now, the only thing I've got to do now is to pick out the cherries and pop them in. So I just do those. I just place them like 1, 2, kind of in slices if you like. Got a little fly in here. Little bugger. Did I say that? If I just break that one in half, well, ish, at least, that bit goes there, there should be enough to finish it. Need to get some more cherries. So I'll place them there for a second, and then I'll just get my fork that I've been using and pop them down a bit, just so that they're kind of under. And that's it. That's all there is to it. And I bake that then for 40 minutes. 40 minutes in my oven. And I will pause the video now and I will show you what this looks like when it's done. Okay, so I'm running out of charge rapidly, so I'm not going to wait for the actual cake. But here's my cupcake that I made, and that's how it looks inside. And it's really nice when it's hot, but that is a little bit too hot. And I just burnt my thumb getting it out, so I'm going to leave that to cool down. But all you do is take it out, let it cool, and then I sprinkle it with sugar. And it's nice when it's warm, but it's beautiful when it's cold. So you can have it either way, and it's also nice with custard. So thanks for watching, and I'll put a picture of the finished cake on the thumbnail so you can see it. But I'm going to run out of battery any moment. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy it. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Thanks very much. Bye for now.